Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today we got the Endless Delve FAQ, so the Endless Delve event starts in about 48 hours from when you might be seeing this, a little bit more than 48 hours, maybe more like 54, 56 hours, and it's going to be an event where you are limited to only the Delve mines. I've already discussed the various unique items that are going to be exclusive to the event in a past live stream, but if you just want the too long didn't watch version of that, I think there's a few of these that are actually pretty good to keep on your character for some time. Those are the Fragment of Eternity, which is really solid for cast on critical strike builds. May actually enable cast on critical strike, starting cast on critical strike as soon as you can get the gem, and for that to feel smooth and powerful. A lot of effective mods on this. It's a really strong item. Additionally, you've got the Scar of Fate, which has socketed gems have 50% reduced mana cost. That's just something that can be really useful on certain builds. You've got the Remnant of Empires, which is just a phenomenal defensive shield if you're in the market for a defensive shield. Slivers of Providence is not half bad. And additionally, I think there's going to be some very, very, very niche users. Most people won't use them, but Rust of Winter and Ashes of the Sun are not terrible. They're things you might consider using for a little while. Likewise, Blood of Summer. The other thing with these, and it is confirmed today, that you can just get as many of these as you want by starting new characters in the Endless Delve event, and that means that you can Vaal them and get the implicit of your choice, assuming you've got enough Vaal orbs. You won't have that many Vaal orbs super early in the Delve, but you will pick them up as you progress through. And so if for instance, you want to use a Remnant of Empires at endgame, you can get whatever corruption you want on it. And it's worth saying that some of the one-handed weapons have extremely good potential corruptions. You can get Fortify on hit. It's a percentage chance to get Fortify on hit, but getting Fortify on hit is really, really strong. So, just going through some of the common questions that have been asked and giving my thoughts. Do we start from level 1? Yes. I don't think there's very many Path of Exile things at all have ever happened where you haven't started at level 1. What exactly do we start with? Now, 40 Wisdom Scrolls is interesting. I was concerned that the very early game Wisdom Scroll economy would be really tight, but remember that you can vendor Portal Scrolls to get 1 Wisdom Scroll, you can vendor Armorer's Whetstones for 2, and Orbs of Transmutation and Blacksmith's Whetstones for 4. And this means that you're going to have an unlimited amount of Wisdom Scrolls. That's important though, because you are going to need to identify gear all the way through the mines, because you're going to be very starved for elemental resistances. You will start with a skill and support gem your class normally gets on the Twilight Strand, 2 small life flasks and a small mana flask. So basically, you start with what you would start with in the normal game, except you're going to get some of these unique items as well. Now these will all start with 3 linked and all white sockets, which also makes them last a little bit longer than they otherwise might. And here's the exact breakdown by class. I'll provide a link in the description below so that you don't need to pause this video and read this. But if there's a specific unique you want, all you need to do is just say, all right, I want the Vestige of Divinity. What class gets the Vestige of Divinity? Oh, okay, the Templar does. I'll roll up a Templar, I'll grab the Vestige of Divinity, stick it in my stash tab, and then delete that character and start again. It's not just the Templar that gets it either. The Witch and the Shadow get it as well. It looks... sorry, the Witch does. Doesn't look like the Templar does. Sorry, it doesn't look like the Shadow does. So, can you make a new character to get multiple copies of the same item? Yes. And like I said, Vaal these things like crazy. This should be your very, very early game use of Vaal orbs, because there's no consequence for failing, and getting those powerful Vaal implicits is just going to be insane, at least if you're intending to use any of those items for any length of time. Now, can you specify the exact thresholds for skill points and ascendancies? So just to clarify what this means here, when you normally progress through the storyline, you will receive various skill points from running quests. So for instance, through the normal storyline, you would receive a skill point for opening the pathway between Act 1 and Act 2, which is something that you get access to midway through Act 2. These skill points are going to come a little bit earlier than they normally do. And this will make up for the fact that the Delve mines are harder than the normal game. And you will get 3 points at levels 1, 3 additional skill points at level 1, and at 10, and at 20, and at 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. So that's a total of 24, which is the same that you would get assuming that you kill all 3 bandits. there is no way to select any of the other bandit rewards. You have to help Eramir in this situation. You don't have any flexibility on it. And there's a little bit of talk later that asks the question of what about the vendor recipes, which I believe from memory you vendor a stack of 20 regret orbs and a specific amulet if you want to respec your choice with the bandits, and the type of amulet that you use corresponds to one of the bandits. Or if you use an Onyx amulet, it corresponds to helping Eramir by killing all 3 bandits. Those books will not be available. Those books of... I don't even remember what they're called. It's something that you have in your inventory for such a short period of time. But it's a quest item that you can get in a normal game. You can still get them, you just can't use them. Your ascendancies kick in at the same level as the labyrinth monster zones. So level 33, 55, 68, and 75. Now, what this means is that if you're playing a Scion, the big milestones for you are 55 and 68. And if you're playing any other class, it's all of them. All 4 of these numbers. So that's when the Scion will get access to their first and second major nodes, respectively. And when they say ascendancies come in at these points, that means you get 2 ascendancy points at each of these milestones. How do I choose my ascendancy? The Altar of Ascendancy will be available in the Mine encampment. Just do keep in mind that you cannot respec your ascendancy. Now, this one's really interesting. How does depth scaling work compared to normal delving? The level of monsters at lower depths have been decreased to make delving from level 1 possible. Because in the normal game, level 1 in the mines is actually monster level 35, and a monster level 35 monster will one-shot a character that is a level 1 character, even with these powerful uniques. And additionally, you will take quite some time to beat them down. You know, they'll feel like Hillock to you, but you will feel like an ant to them. Monster level is simply equal to depth up to depth 74, where it syncs back up with normal delve scaling. Now, this is going to be really interesting. This is a transformation of the way delve normally works. And what this means is that essentially you're going to want to spend quite a bit of time going sideways early on, because you are going to need levels. And additionally, depending upon the topology of the mines that get assigned to you, you might find yourself in a situation where you need to get to, say, depth 5 or so really quickly, because that's the only choices you've got. And because you can't retrace your steps in the delve mines, you might find that you are character level 3 in dumpster tier gear, but starting to face a situation where you're in monster level 5 areas and your next pathway leads to monster level 7 areas. So the first couple of levels might be quite difficult for some mine setups. You'll get through it eventually, especially if you're in softcore. There's no real drawback to just attempting one over and over until you fail. The death penalties don't kick in for quite some time, but it is something worth keeping in mind. Which vendors are available, and will there be currency vendors? So you'll have access to Nico's normal shop. So Nico's normal shop sells resonators, an unlimited amount of 1, 2, and 3 socket resonators, and a very small amount of fossils. And you'll also have access to Lily Roth's gem shop with some modifications, where all the gems she sells cost 1 wisdom scroll each, and she also has an extra tab containing all of the normal currency trades that are offered by vendors, except for portal scrolls, which are useless. So this includes the currency trades that are particularly common in normal play, like for instance turning 4 Jeweler's Orbs into 1 Orb of Fusing. I'd previously said that wasn't going to be available, but since then GGG have clarified that it will. But it also includes a number of recipes that aren't used in normal play, but that are important to know about. And these are things like turning 3 Jeweler's Orbs into 1 Chromatic Orb. Normally this is a terrible deal if you're playing in a trade league, but in this context, you might find yourself very Chromatic Orb starved, and you might also find yourself in a situation where you get your 6 link in reasonable time just because you get lucky. And in that situation, why do you want more fusings? Instead, turn those Jeweler's Orbs into chromatics, and essentially every 6 socket item that you pick up is 2 1/3 Chromatic Orbs. That's really useful if Chromatic Orbs are what you need. So, are skill gems restricted by class? And the answer is no, they're not restricted. All purchasable gems will be available from level 1, no matter which class you play. Now, being available for level 1 means you can purchase them from level 1, but it doesn't mean you can use them at level 1. So a gem like Ignite Proliferation will still have a minimum level of 31, I believe it is. and some of the highest level skill gems are like Castle and Damage Taken will still have their normal minimum level, which from memory on that gem is 38. How does Nico's inventory reset? Each time you successfully complete a new delve encounter, i.e. move the crawler to an unexplored node on the map, then Nico's inventory will reset. Now, Nico's inventory isn't all that great normally, but it might be a little bit more useful here because you're going to be absolutely flooded in Azurite, and you will be able to get all the resonators that you need. So in a trade league environment, normally what you spend your excess Azurite on is buying resonators from Nico. In this environment, you're probably going to want to use the fossils that he very rarely sells, because you'll just have so much accumulated Azurite and nothing really worth buying on it. You'll have all of the resonators that you need. Will it be a crafting bench? No. This is now confirmed again. This had already been said before, but it's now absolutely confirmed. And this means that identifying rare items for resistances is going to be really, really, really important. And additionally, crafting them. Now, in order to craft items for resistances, you're going to want to be using prismatic fossils mostly. They're among the best for crafting resistances on items. And there'll be a lot of different things that you're going to want to try around there. Maybe you'll use prismatic fossils in conjunction with pristine fossils because you want to also hit life on the same item that you get your resists on. Maybe on the other hand, you decide that you want to prioritize using the resistances. Like maybe you want a specific resist. Maybe you really need lightning resist. In that case, you could use the lightning fossil and use it in conjunction with a prismatic fossil to almost guarantee getting a lightning resistance roll. Or you could just use a frigid fossil if you want cold resistance, and save your prismatic fossils for other items down the track. Will prophecies be available? Essentially, no. They can potentially drop from specific reward chests in the mines, but you won't have a way to use them or silver coins. What about divination cards? They'll be worthless trophies. And will drops be disabled on maps, divination cards, sextants, scarabs, that sort of stuff, because they'll have no use? And the answer is no, because it would have required an enormous amount of work changing loot tables and the like. And so GGG is simply saying straight up that it was essentially a precondition of running this, that they didn't need to do such a monumental amount of work that might have delayed work that needed to be done on 3.13, work that needs to be done on Path of Exile 2. So they decided not to do that. And so essentially divination cards will be worthless trophies. Will the on-death experience penalty be present, and if so, when? Yes, levels 40 and 70 grant Katava's curses, with the usual experience loss and resistance penalty. Now, there's also a mention here of Vaal's soul skill increase, Vaal's skill soul cost increase. This is not going to be a factor. That mechanic was removed from the game back when the Incursion League hit. It used to be the case that Vaal skills had a cost in normal difficulties, which was basically up to and including Katava in Act 5, a cost that was 50% higher in Acts 6 to 10, and then a cost that was higher than that. There was 100% higher than the baseline in maps. They then rebalanced them all, and most of the costs went down at the time they rebalanced it to be about online with what the normal skills used to cost. Essentially what that meant was because earlier zones in the game have much less density, it meant that the original intention of the scaling was that you would get to use the Vaal skills once per, maybe you were meant to use them once every 7 packs or so. That was the intended frequency, and that kept pace with the larger packs as you got through the game. Whereas nowadays, instead, it might be once per 7 packs early in the game, once per 6 in the mid game, once per 5 or 4 packs in the late game. Is the delve progression per character or per account? Now, in this situation, they've made a significant deviation from the normal game. And this was essentially to make the race for demigods authorities more fair. And the decision that they've made is that it is per character. So that means that if you make an Ascendant first, and then you decide, once you've been playing for a while, that you actually would rather be a Marauder, then you are going to need to start an entirely new Delve mine on your new Marauder. So not only is your Marauder going to start again at level 1, but you're going to start again at depth 1. I do think this was a necessary decision. It's going to feel a bit bad. but it's also was just necessary to have this be a 1 week event. Otherwise, you'd see a situation where one person would just push to say 400, then to 600, then to 800, then to 1,000, then to 1,200, claim a demigod's authority on their first character, then they would just they would just transfer all of their gear and play again on another character, have that one just do one node, and then get 1,200 depth on that character as well. This way, no, that's not an option. All of your characters need to get to that deep depth. And the key thing with this is that it's because it's so fast to get to level 90 in Endless Delve. Delve is fast XP, and I think that most players will hit character level 90 in about the time that it normally takes them to get their first Conqueror killed. So from League start, if you're the sort of person that takes 7 hours to get to Katava in Act 10, then another 3 to get your first Conqueror kill, so that's a 10-hour time to first Conqueror kill, you could probably expect to be about a 10 hours to level 90 in Endless Delve. If you're the sort of person that gets your first Conqueror kill really fast, like 5 hours 45 into a new league, then you're going to be you're going to be playing faster, and that's going to carry over to Endless Delve. You'll probably be hitting level 90 in about that time. So that meant, so basically, because it's so fast to level an alternate character, they've imposed this restriction. This is going to be really transformative on hardcore. And what's interesting is that this is how Delve worked at the very start of the Delve League. And then it was actually changed because they felt that it was a better gameplay setup to have Delve be an account-wide thing rather than a character-specific. But for very good reasons, they're going character-specific in this. Can you choose your bandit reward? No. Why is this SSF? It's just because it was a design decision to have it be that you don't have access to your towns or hideout. So for that reason, it's SSF only, because you can't get into other people's Delve. I actually believe you can get into other people's Delve by using the swirl. But anyway, they've made a decision that it's SSF only. I'd be interested to see how this works in a trade-enabled environment in the future. I think it would be a really interesting event to run again, but with trade-enabled and allowing hideouts. But that would just be a different event. How do I join the event? So at the character selection screen, there's a panel below your characters which will list the available events. You can join the event by clicking join, and the option becomes available 30 minutes before the event is set to begin. Your character can't move until the event starts. So this is a way that you can get in, you can reserve some goofy name, and then you can start playing at the same time as everyone else, which is important for keeping the integrity of the event. Anyways, that's all I've got at the moment. I will put a link to the official FAQ, but there's probably other questions as well, so feel free to ask them below. Otherwise, leaving it there, hope you have a good one and enjoy Endless Delve. Or enjoy Cyberpunk if that's what you're going to be doing next week instead.